I think what I like about CrystEngComm the most is its sense of community. So a problem shared is a problem halved, so you realise you're not the only person that's struggling.
The most important thing to run the group is to build the trust. Trust is very, very important.
A successful person is the person who stands up one more time than they fall down.
Saying as a PI, like stress level is high, and we were thinking like PhD hai or stress level.
So the joy, when we saw that for the first time, we couldn't believe, and the entire lab was so excited, right? And then we worked on it, it was so much joy. I think that is very important.
Professors, so as you editor of this Crystal Engineering and Communication, so what you like the most about this journal, and this journal stands where in the field?
I think what I like about CrystEngComm the most is its sense of community. I, as a young professor, published my first few articles in CrystEngComm, and I found that as I've got more senior in my career, they still treat the authors and reviewers with respect, and there's a really good community in the field. When you go to conferences and you talk about CrystEngComm, it's always talked about as a journal with high standards, academic standards. But yeah, I think for me it's the community and of the crystal engineering.
Yeah, so I too first published my first paper actually in CrystEngComm, and that was also an invitation which I showed in my presentation. So then, since I just joined and I did not have much work, so I wrote a review on the topic which I was taking up. So that kind of set the stage for the further work in the field. So and also most young professor, those who join, they would like to publish there because community looks at these papers. And also suppose, if you have to develop the field, right, you need a community, and then we learn from each other, and then eventually you develop the fundamentals. So then once the field matures, then you take it to the next level, then you have applications. Normally once you have applications, so you can, when you publish, then you want to make it more popular, so you try little higher and then you publish. So if you look at currently, and many of us who published in our generation, everybody used to publish at least half of their papers in CrystEngComm, and then in the community journals. So we learned a lot actually, it's whatever we learned today and able to publish in any journal, wherever it is mostly through the fundamentals that we learn in these community journals. So that is why it is very, very important to actually also give back to the community. And once you go very deep, sometimes you have so many results, but these fundamentals will be coded somewhere. So then if you have to bring out all these, put in one place, for example, we were thinking about tutorial review. We both were discussing, and then he suggested that we should have a tutorial review. Then we bring out all these fundamentals, then put them in a step-by-step, so that students and then young researchers can basically read these and then take it further to other fields. And that's why it is very important. It's a community journal. It's like close to the heart. Yeah.
Since you both are from different places, so my question is, what influence you to be in this field, like in crystallography? What is the motivation? What influence?
I think what influenced me is when I was doing my PhD in inorganic chemistry, and I think, as I mentioned in my talk, the gold standard of characterization was crystallography, and there's a certain excitement about getting a structure and seeing it visually of something that you've built atom by atom. I still remember a moment in my PhD there was a particular material that I'd been wanting to synthesize for probably about 18 months, and it was a Friday night, and I just solved the structure, and it was the happiest weekend I'd had maybe ever. It was great just being able to see it. So I think it's that being able to visualize something you've made really is, can bring you a lot of joy. So I think that's what attracted me to the field. Yeah.
Yeah, in my case, actually, one of my MSc teacher and who did PhD in University of Hyderabad joined our MSc college in Nizam College. And so when I asked her where I should join, I just cleared the CSIR. So I did not had any idea where to go. Normally, any chemist, students at MSc level, they know organic chemistry, inorganic chemistry, and physical chemistry. And most of them, if they like inorganic, they want to go in that side. So it's a very straightforward route. So to go to something like crystal engineering or supramolecular chemistry in those days it was a kind of a deviation. So my teacher told me that there are very good professors in University of Hyderabad. At that time, University of Hyderabad was School of Chemistry was almost like leading in the country. So then she suggested the name of Professor Desiraju. I had no idea about the field, so I just went and then requested him, and he said that he has a position. So I had no idea, so I just accidentally landed there. And later I liked it because I also want to, I'm a bit slow in moving by nature. So if you are in a very crowded, field, I mean, it's little difficult to meet the pace. So then I also thought it suits me very well. So I take my time and then just look at details and then step by step. So I somehow, liked it, and then I wanted to continue in that. So that's how once I joined Professor Desiraju's group, he was very well known in the, kind of pioneer of the crystallography, crystal engineering. So that's how I landed into crystal engineering. Yeah.
So we all the researcher here. So actually we failed every time in our project, in our paper rejection, then our success. Because in the whole career we do face lot of the failure. So in your early, when you guys are PhD scholar and early researcher, how you handle this failure and the pressure of this the field?
That's very insightful. I think we're all crazy to be scientists because there's far more failures than successes, that's for sure. I think as a PhD student, to deal with that, being confronted with those challenges, it's the same strategies I use now. Typically, I would go to my community, which would be other students, and just discuss my research with them and the problems I was having. And I think the concept is just to look at your problem with different eyes, so you can talk to other people and share your challenges, and they might have good insights. You also learn that they're having challenges, so a problem shared is a problem halved. So you realize you're not the only person that's struggling. So I think those are some of the ways that I got through those difficult times. And it didn't mean that I suddenly went back into the lab and things just fell into place. But it was a way of being able to maybe look at a problem differently by speaking to others. And it's the same strategy I take now as a professor, going to conferences, or there are lots of avenues now, rather than just to speak to people in your department, but there's social media. You can Twitter or X was a good platform for discussing research with people, and there's a lot of other platforms on social media to discuss your research with other people. So I think broadening it beyond your own narrow area is one of the strategies I use. Yeah.
Yeah. So just to add to what he said, so we have to be prepared for the failure if we are working on a group project. Okay, so if you are working on something very challenging, so you have to be prepared for the failure. And also, apart from talking to what he said, talking to colleagues, and that helps a lot. And also, I think we should also develop a habit of reading the literature. So most of the time what happens, once you are into the project, you work very hard in the lab and you forget that you need to also read. So if you have broad knowledge, so you not only will be able to solve it, with better planning, and also you will be able to make sense of your results once you have got results in a bigger context. If you don't have broad view, you may have wonderful result, and you do not know whether there is something already known in that or not. So if you do not know, then you do not know the level of your result as well. So if you want to know that, it is very important that you have a broad overview, and you need to read as much as possible. And the more you read, particularly in the first few years, if you read more, then you will get better insights to not only solve your problem, also to basically put it in the right context. So we should be able to connect our result to many different things. So then you will be able to basically, you will have more flexibility to put it whatever the way you want, and then basically communicate. Yeah.
If I can just add to
Yes,
what
please.
Malla said, and I know it's a little bit off topic, but the reading papers part, because this is a meet the editors, and we just had a talk from Sally about publishing. I think that is the best way to learn how to write good papers, is to read people's work who write good papers. That's one of the best pieces of advice I got when I was writing papers as a postdoc. My supervisor said, read people's papers who write good papers, and that's one of the best ways to learn how to communicate your research well. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Around 20 years back, you are a PhD student in Hyderabad, and now you are a PhD guide at Hyderabad. So can you tell about your story, sir? Like how you, like from the PhD student, and you are an independent researcher, and you are working in the different field like crystallography, and you are moving toward pharmaceutical. So can you tell your story so it inspire us?
Yeah, so when you join a PhD, you may not know the direction very clearly, and so then you don't have far-sighted, you don't see too far, right? I mean, so we work on the problems, and but the change when you become a professor, the change is huge. Okay, most of the time what happens is when you have your own independent career, so in our field, since we involve so much during the PhD time, we don't plan for any family, or it's just like single minded goal, right? Once you go, then you want to settle down, then you think about family, and so it was actually a very big change. When you join as a new faculty, the stress level is, I think, maximum in your life. So because most probably you will have your family as well, you will be new to it, and in a life, I think that is also one of the critical situations, right? I mean, you need to manage, and then you may have kids also, then that will add another, it is always multifold increment of the stress. So then you also have to teach for the first time, like, teaching is also a very responsible job, and it is not so easy to, get attention of the student. So everything will be new actually almost. So when you become a professor, the stress levels are really high. So that time, and also you need to train the students, right? I mean, their career is also in your hands. So that is also, so many challenges at a time. So here, what I advise to the, suppose, you will also have at some point independent position. So the most important thing to run the group is to build the trust. Okay, science part, we all know we would be working very hard. I think we will reach to certain maturity level in science. But I think these interpersonal relations and how the managing the group, trust is very important. If the student does not trust the faculty, it can go to a lot of extremes. So I think that is very important, and this personal level, especially in India, I'm not sure how it works in other places. Maybe there will be similar things. So that is very important to build the trust. I think the student also has to be mentored a lot, and so that so from both the sides, and students also have to be very open with the supervisors. It runs almost like families, right? Academic family, right? And once you are a student as a PhD student with your group, then you are connected to the group forever, like right? So that I had to learn a lot of things. So when I went to IISER Kolkata, so it was very challenging. And then once I think after 5 years, you learn most of the things. After 5 years, you start publishing. So then things will settle down. So after that, your stress levels will actually come down. Yeah.
You are saying as a PI, like stress level is high, and we are thinking like PhD have all stress level.
No, yeah, most of the time students have freedom to say that supervisor is harassing or putting pressure, but supervisor hardly has any scope to also express, right? I mean, we are supposed to be more, matured, and we cannot show many of our emotions. Sometimes it's stressful. Sometimes, as he said, there will be a lot of failures, right? I mean, it comes with experience, but we should be prepared for the failure. I mean, that is the best solution, I guess.
Thank you, sir.
So, sir, one last question. This is on the behalf of all the audience. What advice would you like to give to the young researcher at their early career, or what advice you have received when at the early stage of your career, so that motivated and inspired you to become a successful researcher? Would you like to share with us, Professor?
Yeah, so when I was in second year, I was doing a Bachelor of Engineering and a Bachelor of Science, and I went up to ask my chemistry professor a question. He was an organic chemist, and I was in his office, and I asked him, I said, well, why did you become an academic? Because at that time I was going to be an engineer. And he said, I don't know really, I just kept doing what I enjoyed. And I thought that sounded really, that sounded like a good, a good aim in life to do what you enjoy. So I stuck by that, and I then didn't go on to engineering, and I went on to do science because I was enjoying the research. So that's one thing that motivated me to do science, is that I always enjoy it, and you have to have a passion and an interest in doing it. I don't think you can do a PhD if you're not interested in your project and what you're doing. You have to have an interest. So always pursue your research, not because it's the hottest thing or because you feel like that's what you should be doing. You should have an intrinsic interest in your research. And the other thing that I guess, a good piece of advice I got was when I was doing a PhD, and another PI said to me when I was getting a bit down, they said, the successful person is the person who stands up one more time than they fall down. So I think what he was trying to say is you need to be resilient and just keep persevering, because I think perseverance is a big part of getting through your PhD and postdoc and even as a PI. And I was like you. I thought, I'm a student. As soon as I get my PhD and I get a postdoc, it'll all be fun. I won't be stressed anymore. Then I was a postdoc, and I'm like, what am I going to do? Where am I going to get a job, right? Then then you're a PI, and you're like, where's my next grant coming from, right? It's just, so it never ends. So you have to enjoy it, and you have to be resilient. The two things I would say, yeah.
So, being a mob chemist, it is my question. So, what was your experience at Omoriyagi's group?
My experience in Omayagi's group was just a wonderful opportunity to work in metal organic frameworks at a time when the field was still exploding. I think now it's quite mature, but it was a great opportunity to be involved in a lab where I had a supervisor who, when I sat down for my postdoc, I remember the words he said. He said, I don't like to publish a lot of papers, but what I publish, I like them to be in advance. And I really thought that was a good attitude to have, that he really wanted each paper to be an advance in science. And so, yeah, that was a great time to be working in an area where the field was exploding. That was probably my best experience. And also, I had good overlap. I had complete overlap with someone you might know, Rahul Banerjee, and we're still very good friends now. He's in Europe. Otherwise, I would have caught up with him while I was in India. But so that was probably the best experience, being in the field as it's really growing rapidly. That was a great experience. Yeah.
So, Professor Reddy, what was your philosophy during your whole career?
Yeah, philosophy basically like if you enjoy, as I said, I mean, we are into research. It's not for making money. Okay, if you want to make money, it's not the profession. Okay, there are better things, many things. But if you like, if you are very curious, and if you want to, if you enjoy doing research, I mean, this is the best field, and satisfaction level in this field is very high because you have all the freedom, and despite all the rejections many time and many things. So only during those bad phases, you might be disappointed, but rest of the time you are mostly, you enjoy, right? When you do and then try to figure out something, it takes 2-3 years, all this time, you basically every step you enjoy it. And in our case, when we saw that result, like on the self-healing crystals, I mean, we were kind of so the joy, when we saw that for the first time, we couldn't believe, and the entire lab was so excited, right? And then we worked on it. I mean, it was so much joy. I mean, I think that is very important, and you cannot buy that, right? If you enjoy it, I mean, that I think we have to keep going. And it is not for milestones. I think that it is part of the, we cannot ignore the career also. Like it's also, if you have more recognitions, if you have more grants, and if you have achieved more, always you can do much more. You can also help much more number of students. It's good, important, but that should be a byproduct rather than complete aim. I mean, you should. People also say that you should also aim for certain awards and this. I agree, there is some value to it, but if your entire thing becomes more than that, I think the whole thing is basically a waste. So I think we should take everything. Everything has a value, but you should not overvalue anything. And what is more important is to discover things and then communicate in a proper way, so that others also take it and then enjoy, take it forward. So the science part, yeah, I think that's how that has been my philosophy. I think most successful people followed also this. This is a very well tested model. Yeah.
So thank you, professors. So a big hand for them. So it was a great time to with you people. We would like to thank rsc to organize this event so that we can meet these great personalities. Also, I like to extend my gratitude to IISER Pune and NCL for hosting this great event. Thank you. Best wishes to all of you. See you until next time. Thank you.